Hello, Quinn here on QTV 8888. And today we are talking about what? Me on Get to Know Quinn Hour. So, in this hour or so, I will be talking about my spirituality and how far I've come, what I've come from, what I've done to get to a place within myself that goes beyond any religion or um society norm. I mean, it goes beyond that. So I'm going to be talking about my spirituality and my belief, I guess. So initially I was raised Catholic. I we didn't really seem to practice it much. I had a lot of family. So we would go between some of the relatives, and some were Catholic and some were considered Christian. So their churches, or their way that they practice their religions or beliefs or faith-based system, were different. And so there was a point where my grandma started going to church. She was like the patriarch of our family, and she was Catholic. And something, I don't know what happened, but we weren't like super religious where like all we did was read the Bible and have Bible study and things like that. No. But at some point she started going to church and then wanted everybody to go to church, and we're like, we ain't trying to go to church. So somehow I don't know, she guilted or pressured my mom into taking me and my two brothers to church. And I'll tell you, like, having younger brothers and being a teenager in church, Catholic church, where it's stand up, kneel, sit, sing, pray, stand up, kneel, get some bread and wine or juice or whatever, and then go back and do the same thing. Yeah, it was not fun for my mom. And she wanted, of course, to make her mom happy, right? She's like, maybe this will help my kids by taking the church and get God in them, right? And so it was just boring, and it was not something that was going to fix me and my brothers and our dysfunction in our family. So eventually we stopped going to church because it was dreadful. It was like the worst thing to go to as a teenager on a Sunday. And it's just like, no, why do we want to do this? So every Sunday we would fight my mom about this, and then we'd be mad and we would embarrass her, not intentionally, but like my two brothers would fight, or, they were so bored that they want to occupy themselves. So one of them would, pick on the other to get entertainment, and my mom would just be sitting there like, oh my god, like, can we get the hell out of there? And I think there might have been a time where we left early because it was to the point where it was like my mom couldn't be embarrassed. And she was a person who is very popular in the town, and so a lot of people know her, so she has this image that she has to keep up in appearances. I don't know, but it was not something that I liked at the time. So it was always like, oh, great, So finally the church ended. But I'll tell you, I think my grandma somehow brainwashed me or guilted me into doing the confirmation, because I was the only one who went through the whole confirmation process of getting confirmed in the Catholic Church. I would beat myself up on memorizing the Hail Mary and the Our Father and all of these prayers because I needed to have them memorized, even if I didn't know them. And, trying to read the Bible was just like, oh my God, I can't even understand what this is saying. And so I went through that as a kid. And then finally it was like, we didn't go to church anymore. And in middle school, 8th grade year, I ended up transferring to a Catholic school. So it's like, oh my God, everything was just so confusing on what to believe. And, at that time as a teenager, that's when you're really learning about who you are and what do you want to be and do and have at that time. That's where you really start forming yourself and really developing that personality of who you then become in adulthood. So I was just confused. And, when I'd go to this Christian church with the other grandma, it was all like loving and caring and having fun and live music and live instruments and singing. And they just made it fun, and then, I've been to several places where I've went into the playroom of the church or whatever. Okay. And I've experienced several different cultures or different religions or churches, and I always was more fond of the Christian church because it seemed more open, more accepting, more loving than the Catholic Church did. Like my mom being embarrassed in Catholic church was almost like people would look at you and just like shun you because your kids were out of hand or something, And so it was really, I got like these different worlds, these different experiences of what faith is or what belief is. And the grandma who went to the Christian church, she would always watch those shows on Sunday with the pastor up there just going on and on and on and on about the God, or whatever. And so a lot of that, I was just like, is that even real? Like, is what he's saying true? Because somewhere deep inside of me, it didn't ring true. It felt conflicting. And so I was always asking questions, and I was always like, well, why is it like that? Or why is somebody saying this, but this other side saying that? And it was just so confusing on what to believe, honestly. And actually, it's probably the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. I got that because I was like 13 to 15. I was like a horrible teenager. I was just out of control and I was doing all kinds of shit. And so my mom and I were always battling with each other, always. And so people would give me these books to be like, maybe you can find some kind of peace or forgiveness in these books so that you can have a better relationship with your mom or anyone else, right? With myself. And so I think it was really that book that really started sparking the curiosity of, well, what if there really is something more than the Bible or more than the Catholic Church or more than the Christians or more than what people were preaching? And that's when I feel like I really started getting curious on the things that happen outside of those expectations or those communities. And before, once we started going to church, it was like I wanted to just form my own belief about what God is or what source is or what the universe is or who our creator is. And it's been a long journey to really unpack the Catholic religion and whatever else was embedded there about, it was always like, some of the beliefs of like, you can't have sex until you're married. If that was the case, that was a belief I had at one time. If that was the case, I would still be a virgin. And it'd be like, no. Or some of the other ones, what was it? Like, there's a heaven and hell, and if you do these bad things, you're gonna go to hell, and the devil's gonna come and take you, and all this and that. So putting like the fear of God in you, oh, well, God's gonna be upset at that, and he's gonna send you to hell, like you're not gonna go to heaven, so you better be on your best behavior, or you're not gonna go to heaven. Because if you're bad, or you lie, or you steal, or you cheat, or you do something, you're going to hell. Like, you're shamed, like you're shunned for the rest of your life. And it was just like, what? No, like, really? Like, putting the fear, and then you're just living by fear. And I was like, I can't see myself doing this. And it has been quite the journey to form my own belief in what I believe to be true. And having to break down all those brainwashing, all the brainwashing and the confusion of what's really true. Because honestly, I would question the Bible and I would be like, how do we know that any of this is true? How do we know that these people didn't make this stuff up? We don't know that. And I mean, I would like to believe that some of it's true, but how is it all true? Like, did Jesus actually write this? Did this come straight from the man who was our savior and was supposed to save us? But what is he saving us from? Ourselves? From destructing ourselves because we're not following his lead or following his teachings? So it was very hard for me to read the Bible and to believe it. And when I went to the Catholic school, we had to go to church every Thursday. Every Thursday was church day. And it was just like, oh my God. And so I had vowed that when I graduated from high school, I was never going to go to church again unless it was like for a funeral or a baptism. But I wasn't going to a wedding, if somebody was having a church wedding. And that was another thing about the religion, about Catholicism. When me and my daughter when my daughter's dad were together to get her baptized, like, I didn't necessarily want to get her baptized as Catholic, but her dad's German grandma was Catholic. And it was like, if I didn't baptize her Catholic, then she like gave you the look of death. And was just like, you're dead to me. And then constantly bugging and bugging and bugging. And so I ended up feeling like so pressured and obligated to baptize my daughter when really she wouldn't have even been baptized. Like, I could have just taken her to get saved because I got saved at a Christian church and it was a lot more meaningful to me than it was to go to confession and tell all my secrets to some old man that was supposed to give me forgiveness or ask God to forgive me. So it was just like, it just felt too controlling, too constrictive, too confining, like, and too like so right and wrong, like there was never a middle, and I felt ashamed for the things that I did, like as a teenager, and it was like stealing or, hitting my brother or lying to my mom or something like that. But I was just like, I just don't agree with any of this. And so a lot of the beliefs that people tried to pound into me was met with a lot of resistance because I was not in alignment with that. That was not true to me. And it was unfair. It felt unfair. Like, it didn't seem right to be having these kind of beliefs that that I don't even know, like, that then shunned you anyway. I don't know. But once I got out of high school, I was like, nope, I am not going to church. And I did not. I was like, people are like, well, you got to go to church to have a relationship with God. I'm like, no, I don't. I was like, no, I don't. I don't need to go to God's house, is what they would call it. Go to God's house and get church in them. And it's like, get God in you. And it was like, no, I don't have to do that. I don't have to go to church to have a relationship with my Creator. I'm a part of him. He's already a part of me. And so I've gone beyond what faith really is. And that is something that has kept me going my whole entire life through everything that I've experienced. And it's because I vowed to make that relationship, to make that connection with my source, with my Creator, with the one who has brought me here, who has brought my soul here to help me evolve and grow it. And so I've had to undo all of those beliefs. I mean, as a kid, it was like pound, 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 pound it into your head. And it just wasn't what I needed. But I'll tell you that when I went to the Catholic school, and if you've watched my backstory, there was a time in middle school where I hung out with the wrong crowd, the wrong girls, the bad influences. I mean, they weren't all so bad, but they weren't all so great either. And so that's when me and my mom had a lot of issues and met with a lot of resistance. And I was just trying to fit in. I was just trying to be a part of a group or get people to accept me for who I am when really they didn't. And so I had to pray to God to be like, is this okay? Like, get me out of here or do something. And then he removed me from the situation. And I mean, a lot of times it's unfortunate, the situations that you have to go through to be removed from a situation, but they always seem to have a silver lining or a blessing in that disguise, right? And so those are the awesome parts about life, is those times, because you get to look back and be like, wow, that was a pretty shitty situation, but look what came out of it. Look what I learned. Look what I experienced. Look how much I grew, right? So I just kept working on my belief. I just kept working on my connection to my creator and releasing and letting go of the things that aren't part of who I am. And it was in that middle school time where those friends, we ended our friendship, and I had to pray to God. And an angel had come to me in my living room to tell me it was going to be okay, that this was necessary. This is what needed to happen. And so, yes, I was upset in a way that I had to change schools and go to a Catholic school because I bashed on the Catholic school about a year or two before, so it's like, oh, it's funny how you end up at the place you were just bashing, right? So clearly that was, the universe working its magic, or God or the creator or source working its magic to remove you from a situation that is not good for you. And then it helped me to regain my relationship with God or with source. I mean, at the time it's God. It's always been God, right? It's always been God for me. But it gave me the opportunity to reestablish that relationship, to reconnect back to him and put my trust in him or it or her or they, whatever you want to call it. But that's what I call it. That's just how I refer to it. And so that's where I found God again. So it was a blessing out of the disguise of this crappiness over here of ending friendships that led me to reconnecting with old friends that I had prior to getting in the group that I was hanging with, and reconnecting with them and being in a friendship for 30 some years, and it was the best thing that needed to happen. But I also questioned a lot of things, I mean, it was your traditional school, but we had religion class, we had religion, and I would always be asking like, well, why is it like this? I had two nuns as teachers. One was a debate teacher and a speech teacher, and the other one she was the coolest nun, honestly. She didn't really dress in her habits. The other one did, but she was older. She was an older lady. But this one, she was so cool. Like, she would wear Harley Davidson shirts. Her name was Sister Donna. She was so amazing. And she'd always say, "Are you with me? Are you with me? Are you with me?" Because she'll go on a tangent. But she did like government, psychology, religion, and there was probably another one. I don't remember. But yeah, she was the awesomest nun. So that made, going to those classes better, having that as opposed to, the ladder of the older lady teaching this. So I mean, everything definitely happened for a reason. And so once I left my hometown to go start my own life and do my own thing, I really had to work on even more beliefs within me. Like it's just been exploring and being curious about consciousness, and being aware. So when I say spirituality, it's like I come more from a spiritual place of knowing that there's more to me and my life in this world than just being human, and exploring the deeper meaning of why we are here, why this human existence even exists, and where does it come from, so I wanted to get deeper into the deeper meaning of why we're here and what my soul came here to do, and that I have a soul and it has a purpose and it came here for a reason, and what is that reason and what am I meant to do. And so it's gaining more awareness and more consciousness about who or what. It's more of what I am. And the feelings that I receive, or the downloads, or the information, or the energy I feel. So my spirituality went from, praying to a God to being more connected to it and learning how I'm connected and all the things that I can do while being connected. Even though there never is a disconnection, we're always connected. It's just a matter of your consciousness and awareness of that connection. And when you tap into that power, you can change your life around. You can transform yourself. You can heal yourself. You can shine so much brighter. You can release with ease everything that no longer serves you or hasn't served you. You can break curses and generational patterns and all kinds of stuff. So it's really come down to for me, in my spirituality, to really connect even deeper with myself, with that energy that lives in my sacral, that lives between the sacral and the solar plexus. That's where the Kundalini power is. That's where my soul lives. If you ever notice, it feels like there's a heartbeat down there, and there is, and that's your soul. That is your soul's heartbeat. And then we have our own heart up here that is beating this body, but it's that power in there that is powering this whole entire body. So through all of my practices and experiences of chakras and mindset work and frequencies and all the different healing tools and modalities, and using yoga to, move energy out of my body, and really learning about how the human operates, but also on a conscious level, because our brain, our mental brain is where it all starts. Is it all comes in through here, and then it comes out through all of our chakras and into our bodies and the parts and everything. And so it's been a mission of mine to really master that connection. To master that connection, have full trust and confidence in that connection to guide me to my most optimal and highest good. And so I, of course, have my angels and I have my guides. I mean, we all have them. They're all there with us. And it's a matter of you connecting with them and inviting them in to help you, to support you, to love you, to give you exactly what you need at that moment. So my faith has been built on the belief that there is something more powerful than I am, something that is much bigger, that has created me, and I'm a piece of that creation. And I am an expression of that creation. With my soul and this experience of this human form, I get to express the truth of my creator. That's why I'm a co-creator in this human life, because source consciousness of where I've come from is here to express itself in the form of human and as a soul. And we've done it in many lives because this consciousness wants to be expressed. And so it's sending out all these little pieces of consciousness of itself out to be expressed in all these different forms. And it isn't just human. I mean, there's a whole galactic universe. There's all other planets, starseeds, all kinds of stuff much greater than here in human form, but they are helping us. So when you tap into them and you reach out to them, they are ready and willing and open and receptive to help you. So they have been a really big part in my spirituality and growing my faith, because I would listen to them over any human, honestly. A human tells me something and I'll go to my guides and be like, hey, what do you think about this? What is the most optimal what? So I put more of my trust in them than I do in anything else. And every day I'm communicating with them. And you know what? Every day they're communicating with me through music, through numbers, through astrology, through crystals, through just sound and frequency, through everything. And so I feel like if I hadn't broken down all the disbelief that I had in a God who was going to send me to hell if I lied or if I cheated or if I didn't do something I said I was going to do, then I don't think I would have the mindset or even the awareness of what I have now or what I've experienced within my own body and within my own mind. And the more that I'm opening up of my expression of myself, because I mean, we were poured on with others' beliefs, and then we spend, depending on how aware you are, we spend our whole adult life undoing that, cracking it open to really truly be who we are. And that's an expression of source energy, consciousness energy. Which is interesting because when you start to think of it more from an energy perspective, things change. And as you start learning about your energy and learning and decluttering your chakras and balancing those, a lot of the things that you've worried about or cared about or fussed about or stressed about or didn't really enjoy or maybe did enjoy fall away, or they don't hang around much longer, or they kind of just melt off. And those are the things that just don't serve you. So my whole thought based of religion or spirituality has completely changed from what I was raised. And when people talk to me about that stuff, I mean, to each his own. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe, but don't try and force your belief on me, because I can see through it and I know that there is something more powerful and much more bigger out there that is controlling, or that is, you know, playing all this out on a much deeper level. So once you get in touch with that and you start learning more about it and, you know, watching spiritual weather reports to see what the planets are going to be like and the placements at the times with the moons and the sun and everything like that, then you can actually harness that energy to live your best life and to be completely free. Because that, for me, that is the highest priority, is my highest consciousness and attaining highest consciousness as I can in this human form, and freedom, living free from the disbelief, living free of the illusions, living free from other people's beliefs that are not mine or I don't resonate with, living free within myself to express myself. And I had to break down all of that structure, all that foundation. And I mean, I've had to cannonball it, blow it up, tear it down like destruction There's been times I would see myself in a room and I'm just destroying it with like an outburst or a temper tantrum. But really, it was like I was breaking down the walls. I was breaking down. And I'll tell you, I was built up. You think going to Catholic school was like totally releasing? No. I wish I knew what I know now then, because that would have made it so much better. But I had so much walls built up. I had developed such a thick skin that I wouldn't show emotion, or if I did, I would lash out. It was not healthy. It was not healthy the way that I expressed those feelings. So I've had to learn for a long time how to find peace with what was causing me anger or pain or frustration, and forgiveness. And that had been a really big part of my healing, was the forgiveness. And, they talk about that in the religions about forgiving, but it's more for ourselves than it is for the other person. And I feel like that's where the message gets a little confusing, because it's like, oh, we got to forgive this person for all the horrible things they did to us, and then I'll find peace. When that, I don't feel, is that like that. It's like more of like, I need to forgive myself for not standing up for myself and allowing this person to do this to me. I'm not condoning his behavior. I'm more of the one that would beat up on myself for allowing it to happen. Or it would be like, oh, and then God just did this to me. Like, I don't know why God did this to me. It's like, well, God didn't do it to you. You're doing it to yourself. And he's probably put all of these blessings in your path, but because you're so set on on the horrible situation you're facing, you can't see the blessings in disguise. You can't see him redirecting you to a better place. But if you're so caught up in the situation and how horrible it is, you're not going to be open to receive those blessings. So, that is my spirituality, and it just keeps growing and growing every day. Like, I activate myself every single day. I'm activating my light body. I am taking care of my energy. I am cleansing it, and I am putting an infinity healing chamber around it every single day to protect me from the energies that are outside of us, that are out in the world, and that other people are carrying. And so I'm very sensitive now, because I've been doing so much clearing out and letting go, and my world inside has completely demolished. And now I have all these Quinnites. I call them Quinnites because they're all little me's, rebuilding my world, rebuilding what I believe now, and choosing for me, not for somebody else. And so I'm rebuilding my world, because the world I had was not a world that was good for me. It was not allowing me to thrive and express myself in the ways that I want to express myself, which is like coming here and doing a video about my spirituality. You think I've been able to do this like 6 years ago? No, I would not. I would be too scared to come and put out my belief because of some judgment from somebody else. Because what I believe and say sometimes will just press a button in you. It will ignite something. It would spark something. It will resonate. It will press a button. It will trigger you. It will do something, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because then it's going to get you to start thinking differently. And that's what I had to do. I had to start thinking differently about what spirituality really meant. And it wasn't being a part of a religion. It wasn't being a part of a community. Not that that's wrong, because if that's what you need in your life to feel good about you and have that support, then do it. Do what makes you feel good and is bringing value to your life. but doing the whole church thing just wasn't a thing for me. Not that I don't like going. I mean, I just am very against it right now. If I got with somebody and they're like, well, I go to church on Sundays, I was like, well, don't expect me to be going with you on Sunday, because I will not. I will not. And I mean, I feel like I've taken that vow very serious, of like, I don't have to go to church to have a relationship with my creator or with God or Jesus or whoever I'm praying to, because ultimately it's the same thing. It's all the same. Like, yes, we have Buddha and we have Gandhi and we have Allah and we have Ra and we have all of these different things, but they're all God. They're all the same source. They're all the same consciousness. They're all the same piece of our main source energy, our conscious energy. So they're all an expression, but they're ascended masters. They're the masters that have come to help the humans evolve and learn and grow and master the human experience. My level of spirituality goes really deep. It goes really beyond. And sometimes when I talk about it to people, I mean, I have to be very choosy on who I really express this to, because a lot of people won't understand, or it will be too deep, or their consciousness or their awareness is not there, so they can't really understand what I'm saying. But if you're someone who's been waking up and has been exploring all the different ways to connect to yourself and to your source, to your creator, then you know what you got to go through and the things you got to do to get there. And they're not always pleasant. You know, we expect things to happen on our own timeline, but it won't ever happen that way. It always happens on divine timing. So that's where myself need to let go of the control of things happening on my own time. You know, I just now it's like I put the stuff out there. This is what I want. This is what I want. And I am open and I am receptive to receiving these blessings in its most optimal time. So whenever the universe feels like it's optimal to deliver to me, then that's when it's going to do it. But if it's like, oh, well, I expect it to be here on Tuesday at 3:00 because I need it for this and I need it for that, the universe is going to be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, keep on wishing. Keep wishing. And I feel like sometimes that was the hardest part in this spiritual journey, is the patience that you have to have. You know, the patience of, like, even if you don't see anything happening right now, doesn't mean that nothing's happening, right? Something much deeper, much greater, and much more beyond my control is happening and making those arrangements to bring exactly what I need to me. That is already mine. It's already there. So if I've thought about it and I've gotten the images and the downloads, then it's already happened on another timeline somewhere. So they don't teach you that in Catholics. They don't teach you to think for yourself. They don't teach you to look towards a greater thing. They are more of like, oh, here are the rules of being a Catholic, and if you don't follow them, then you're going to hell. And it's like, well, these rules suck. Like, no, I mean, yes, the 10 Commandments were put there for a reason, right? Because they needed to have some kind of order in a sense. And it's like a guideline of how to be a good person, right? Like, really, here's a guideline on how to be a good human. If you can follow these 10 Commandments, here you go. But some of them were just outlandish. Like, some of them were ridiculous. Like, okay. One of the things that I think people should follow most, and there's only 4, and that's the 4 agreements, you know, where that is loving yourself, you know, speaking your word, speaking your truth. And what are the other 2? doing what you're saying you're going to do. That's a big one, because if you don't do what you say you're going to do, then nobody will believe you. And then the third or the last one is acts of kindness or something like that, or I think it was that. I'm not sure. Look it up. 4 agreements. those are really how you be a good person to yourself, and how you can be a good person to others and do good in the world. So that's just me. That's where my path of spirituality has led to me. And really, life is about what you make it, not what you don't have. Because if you keep like, oh, well, I don't have this and I don't have that, well, that's what you're going to continue having, is none of it. But if you are already, and that was one of the things in my spiritual journey, is believing that you already have it. That has been sometimes the hardest thing, because it's like, oh, well, I need this money, and if my bank account doesn't show it, then I don't have it. It's like, well, how do I believe it if it's not there? How do I believe something that's already mine and isn't already visible to my human eyes? But if I keep saying, oh, well, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there, my consciousness and my subconsciousness is not going to know any different. So that has been a really big part of my spirituality, is changing how my mind operates. And it's a constant work in progress all the time, redirecting. I mean, it's taken me years to get to the place in my mind to operate from a place of knowing and trusting and believing and having faith no matter what. Like, my faith is so strong, nothing can break it. Nothing can break my faith. And I feel like that has always been something strong within me, is my faith, because really at the end of the day, that's what I have, is my faith, and I have my word. And if I don't have either one of those, then it's hard to live life. It's hard to enjoy this human experience, knowing that you've come from somewhere else. And most of us have come from somewhere else. And I know that I have, and I've come here for a reason. And ultimately, it is to raise the consciousness. It is to get you to maybe see a different perspective on how to believe in spirituality, or what spirituality is, or maybe looking at the religions, or, those communities that you've been a part of all your life, and questioning, like, is this something that I believe? Is this something that I can do without? Do I really need to do this every Sunday? Do I really need to believe in this? Or am I doing it because of somebody else? Or am I doing it to avoid being shunned by my family, or sent to hell because I don't believe it anymore? Well, that's a choice for you to decide, and no one can keep you anywhere. You have the power to get out of any situation, and like I said before, the universe has its own way of removing you from something that isn't serving you, and it could be a very traumatic, upsetting, totally, completely different life in one day. Like, it'll just remove you from that situation and put you in a completely different thing that turns out to be a blessing later. An example is me moving. When I moved, I went to a sacred feminine retreat in October of 24, and a lot of things had to take place to lead up to going to that retreat. A lot of things within myself I had to go through. So many dark nights of the soul, so many voices in my head telling me that I couldn't, or so many people from my past saying that I'd never make it or be anything or ever have something like this. So I had to go through a lot of things, and I went and I got the healings and I got the downloads and I got the activations. And then I came back and my life changed. Rent didn't get paid for 2 months. Jobs were ending. Income wasn't coming in. And I was freaking out like, what the fuck? What am I going to do? You know? And then, day before Thanksgiving, an eviction comes knocking at my door, and it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? So then here I am having to move because I did not want an eviction on my record. And so it was like, you're moving. Now you're moving, because I intended on moving in June of 25 and out of that place. And the universe had other plans for me. And I mean, it couldn't have worked out better. So it's like, wow, this is really amazing on how the universe works, even when you have to go through devastating things and you're uprooted at any given moment and put into a different place. Because if I hadn't moved, then I wouldn't have, met up with some people, or made the connections, or lived in the place that I live, or having the offers made and the opportunities come that I've had since. So, I mean, I can't be mad about it. And it's like, well, I guess this is what's happening. And so we're doing it. What else is coming? Something to look forward to be excited about. And that's really where I've changed my spirituality, is like, life is a gift. Like, each day that you wake up is a gift. It's a blessing. It's a new day for you to make better choices, to be a better person than you were yesterday, to grow your soul more, to expand your mind more, to open your heart more, to make better choices, to make better decisions, to be around better people and do better things and have better things. You get that opportunity every single day that you wake up. And so that was where I'm living from. That is where I live from, is a place of gratitude and thankfulness that I was blessed with another day. Like, I was blessed to come here today at this time and do this video for you and talk about spirituality. And so I'm not trying to convert you or get you to believe in what I believe, but I just say, think about it. Just think about it, and whatever comes. Maybe it gets you to change some things. Maybe it gives you an aha moment. Maybe it gives you the courage to go say, no, I don't want to believe that anymore. That's your belief, not mine. I believe this. And maybe it gives you the courage to express your truth and what you really truly believe, and not something somebody else brainwashed you to believe or told you to believe, because if you didn't, then you're going to hell. Okay, so that's not true in my book. And you can decide for your own self if that's true for you. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But that's not how I want to live my life. I don't want to live in fear. I want to live in love and joy and happiness, and in peace. Most of all, I want to live in peace and freedom. Peaceful freedom, and live a simple, extraordinary life, and just make the most of this human experience and forget about the pain and the suffering that I experienced as a child, or that I was brainwashed to believe as a kid. And so I just want to say, you have the power to choose for you, regardless if you have a husband or family or kids or whatever, or your boss or whatever. You have the power to choose what you want to believe, what you want to practice, what you want to experiment with, what you want to be curious about. And you don't be afraid about what anybody else thinks about what you believe. Okay, because that's your belief. And I'm not trying to say believe what I believe, because I'm going to believe what I want to believe. And you believe whatever you want to believe. But I'm just saying, if some of the beliefs that you have, or some of the programming that you have, isn't serving you, then that's when you know it's time to make a change. And it all starts by making a different decision, by choosing a different decision, by recognizing the negative belief and being like, you know what, I'm not going to let that take me. I get to choose this. So you have a choice in everything you do. You cannot blame anyone for why you do the things you do, because you're the only one to blame. So I don't know where that came from, but that was what it is. Anyway, spirituality is what you make it, not what somebody has told you to believe. It looks like I have a little like light on my head, doesn't it? I do. Anyway, so thank you so much for watching my spirituality, allowing me to share this with you. I love talking about this stuff because it's really changed my life. And I know that the more people that get more involved in this, it really does help the planet and the collective, the human collective overall. So the more that we become more conscious about ourselves, about our creators, about where we came from, and let go of the programming of other humans that don't necessarily have the best intentions for us, let go of that, because a lot of times it isn't serving you. It's holding you down and holding you back from really being open to receiving what life really has to offer. And it is magic. It's magical every day. And it's all about your mindset and your perspective. And if you're living in gratitude, and if you're forgiving yourself and others for whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but you forgive and you let go, and you live in those loving, blessed moments that you get each day. So I encourage you to just look around your life and see where those blessings are, or look around your life and look at the experience that you had where there was like a really horrible thing that happened, or very tragic, or something really, unpleasant or unhappy happened, and it turned out to be a blessing. What are some of those things? You feel free to share them with me, but just think about it. Just think about all the things that you've overcome and what got you there. Was it believing in God? Was it praying to God? Was it trusting in yourself? Was it building your faith? Was it going to church? Was it a community? What was it that helped you? And also think about, like, how great is your faith? Where do you put your faith? Are you putting it in people? Are you putting it in dictions? Are you putting it in to communities? Or are you putting it into a higher power? Are you putting it into angels and a God, or even into yourself? Do you have faith in yourself that you could get out of any situation with ease? You can go through it with ease in any situation. So just think about that, because that's really what I want to do with my videos, is to express myself and what I believe and what I've done and come from, that then could maybe help you change your thought, or make a different decision, or think differently, because that's where it starts. It all starts in the mind. And if I could just plant one seed, or switch something on, or create another path or way, or set a spark in there, then I've done what I needed to do, because the universe, source, your higher self, and your angels and guides will all take it from there. But I did what I needed to do. So you never know what could happen in those unpleasant times, because a blessing is always somewhere to be found, and there's always a silver lining to be seen. So thank you so much for watching Get to Know Quinn Hour, and I can't wait to share with you next week. I don't know what that topic is, but thanks for watching, and share with me any comments, and share with me any anything that you want to share. Share something with yourself, because I'd love to hear from you. So like and subscribe and comment if you wish, but I will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Love you. Bye-bye.